Committee of the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea to determine the application by the Walton Cafe on the ground floor of 48 Walton Street, SW3. My name's Greg Hammond. I'm Councillor for Courtfield Ward, South Kensington, so it's the next ward along to the west. I am familiar with the location but haven't been into it and have no interest to declare. I'll be chairing the proceedings. I've got two colleagues with me who will introduce themselves now.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Laura Burns for Chelsea Riverside Ward. I have nothing to declare.
Councillor Abdullah Noor, Delgado Ward. I have no interest on this case.
Thanks very much indeed. We three are the committee, we're the decision makers in the case, but we're assisted by other people in the room. I'm going to start on my left with our legal officer.
Good afternoon, I'm Lindsay Limazuri, I'm the legal officer.
Thanks very much. And from the licensing department.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon all. I'm Paul Phelan, the licensing officer.
Thanks very much indeed. And we have the governance team down the far to my left.
Good afternoon. This is Nima.
I'm Daniela.
Thanks very much indeed. We don't have any of the responsible authorities present, but we do have the applicants party. So if you'd like to introduce yourselves, please. I believe you've got counsel present.
So yes, my name is Fraser Cox-Hill. I appear on behalf of the applicant. The applicant and his wife appear to my right.
Thanks very much indeed, Mr. Cox-Hill, and welcome to you. And then we've got some objectors present, so let's introduce the objectors. So is that the side? There we are.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good morning. My name is Darren Rickards. I'm a resident of Walton House, which stands opposite Walton Cafe.
Thanks, Mr. Rickards. And next along.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Lakshman Menon. I'm a resident of Walton House, which is directly opposite the cafe.
Thank you, Mr. Menon. And finally on the...
Yes, good afternoon, Chair. My name is Lucas Casper Schwinner-Strachitz. On behalf of Mrs. Elizabeth Balzer and my wife Flaminia Gonzalez-Barber, who are the owners of the house 50A Walton Street.
Okay, thanks very much. And let's go to the supporters. I think we've got some supporters who are parties at the back. Let's introduce yourselves, please, starting from the my far left. Could we put the microphone on, please, because I can't hear you from there. So it's the request to speak button, and you get a red light on the microphone.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Isabel Santos Texera, and I'm a neighbour.
Okay, and Ms. Texera, I don't see you as a registered supporter in terms of having submitted any written applications beforehand.
I did in the past. I've got...
Let's just check with governance.
I've sent an email.
So which
is Isabel Santos Texera?
Okay, let's check that, because I didn't find your name when we were checking in the... we'll get governance to check that, but we'll just move on to our other... yes, so you're under Elizabeth Santos. Fantastic, we found you. Thank you very much indeed. And the two other ladies present there.
Hi, I'm Sonia Gatata. I am a neighbour in support of Walton Cafe.
Thank you very much. And finally...
Good afternoon, Teresa Burkey, Lennox Gardens 10, directly opposite the cafe on the other side.
Thank you very much indeed. So as you've all discovered, if you have a speaking part, please do put the button on so the red light lights up on the microphone and we can all hear you. It will only allow probably 2 of those to be on at any one time. So when you've finished your speaking part, please turn it off again. In terms of the documents, the committee has read a number of documents ahead of the hearing. So we've had the main bundle from the licensing department, which was 156 pages, or at least it was when I read it online. I've got a printout in front of me now. And for background, we've also had the full determinations for previous cases dated the 23rd of June 2022 and the 23rd of September 2023. And we've seen the pavement licence applications dated the 9th of September 2025 and the 30th of March 2026. So those are the documents the committee has read. You don't need to repeat what's in them, but please do draw our attention to any relevant points that are in there when we get to your sections. So how it will work, in a moment I'll ask if there are any amendments or any preliminary matters. I will then ask the licensing officer to outline the case for us. The applicant will then have 10 minutes to make their case. That'll be followed by questions from the members, the legal officer and objectors. And then the objectors, you will each get 10 minutes to make your cases individually, but I'll have questions in one go to all three of you after that. And again, it'll be from the members, the legal officer and from the applicant. And then the supporters, you will each get 10 minutes to make your cases, and there'll be the question time after that. At that point, we will have been through everybody's cases, and I'll ask the legal officer to go through the potential conditions. Now, that discussion will happen without prejudice to the panel's decision on the case, but it's rather than make a decision and then bring everybody back in several days' time or weeks' time to go through the conditions, it's much more convenient to do that discussion today without prejudice to the decision, so we will do that. We don't have a summing up. We'll take final legal advice, and that will be the close of the case. So that's how it's going to work. Now I'm going to ask Mr. Coxhill if there are any preliminary matters and any amendments to the application, and I believe you might have an application for us.
I can confirm that there are no amendments to the application, but I have very recently provided to the governance team a relatively short document which summarises the submissions on behalf of the applicant. The relevant sections, so far as I submit, of the relevant policy, and addressing some of the concerns that have been set out by the objectors. I know not whether you have had or received that document as yet. I don't propose that it stands in the way of my making my submissions, but I was keen to ensure that you had that document at some point, so that if I missed anything in the oral submissions, then it would be, as it were, encompassed in the written document, and you were in a position to ask me any questions about it, if you so wish.
So is it effectively a written submission as opposed to new evidence?
It is not new evidence. It merely, as perhaps you would expect from counsel in this situation, sets out what the application is in very brief terms. It sets out what we submit are the relevant aspects of the policy that are, so to speak, in play. It then goes on to address in short order the background, in the sense of the owner himself, his background, and I was keen not to, as it were, take up any of the committee's time with that information. It also sets out some of the relevant history in relation to the street itself, which does in fact replicate some of the submissions that were made back in 2023 in support of a previous application, but I was conscious that none of you would have been aware of that necessarily, and so they're repeated in my document. And then it goes on to make very few submissions in support of the application, pointing out aspects of the history that work in the applicant's favour, and also addressing some of the objections that have been put forward quite properly by the objectors. I forwarded it via PDF if it assists, and I'm hoping it's been received by the governance team.
Well, we haven't received it yet. I mean, why wasn't it submitted before today? I mean, we might have read this before we turned up.
I have been instructed relatively shortly. I first had an in-person conference with the applicant today, who approved those submissions. None of it will take the committee by surprise, in the sense that they don't include any new evidence. They simply summarise the evidence that's before the committee, and in fact would no doubt replicate some of the submissions that I would make during my 10-minute stint but it was only if I missed any of the aspects of the history, for example, in relation to Walton Street, then that would be covered in a written document that you could, if you were to permit its submission, read at your leisure.
Okay, thanks very much. Just bear with me a moment. Thanks, Mr. Cox. So we'll do if we can, if governance have received the document. Yes, they have. I will ask the team to print it, circulate it amongst the parties. I'm going to have to ask for comments from the other parties as to whether they wish to object to it being admitted. It doesn't sound contentious from what you've said, Mr. Coxhill, but we do need to hear what they've got to say.
Of course.
And then we'll have to take an adjournment to read it. So. Has your colleague gone away to print it? Okay. So why don't we, we'll adjourn now then. I'll allow the governance team to circulate it and then we can perhaps call back in again when the objectors are ready to offer any comments. And then at that stage we will decide, well, if we're going ahead to admitting it, then we will decide we'll take a break to read it. So we'll adjourn just at that point. Thank you. just look to governance to see if we're ready to start again. Okay, we're resuming. Let me turn to our objectors to see if you've had time to read the proposed document and if you have any comments or objections to it being admitted for us to read. So you can't hear? You can, right. Let me turn to you to ask you in turn if you have any objections to the document being admitted. So Mr. Rickards first. The one that's been circulated to you to read just now, do you have any objections to us seeing it? Please put your microphone on. Can you put your microphone on, please?
It's not really a case of objecting to the document. I think there's been a lot of time with an adjournment for this to be presented before the morning of the hearing.
Yeah, that's a different point. So you don't object to us seeing it then? I mean, you'll obviously object to the content because you're objecting to the
yes.
to the application, but you don't object to the fact that we can or are seeing it.
No, I don't object to it being included. No.
Thank you very much, Mr. Menon.
Well, apart from saying, Chair, that I'm sorry that the objectors weren't allowed a similar latitude, I do have objections to the some of the points in this written submission. Just to be extremely brief.
But disagreeing with it is not the same thing as objecting to us seeing it as a panel. You have to make a case for why you don't want us to see it, as opposed to not agreeing.
Oh, absolutely not. It's just full of extremely inaccurate statements.
Yes, so you will have an opportunity to cross-examine
Great.
Later
yes.
on when that time
Thank
comes
you, and
to
noted.
bring out those points.
Thank you.
Mr. Schvinnis,
No objections, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we will now need to read the document. Now let's see if there's hard copies for it, and we'll have a look and see if we do that in place or if we retire to read it. Okay, we're going to have an adjournment in place, so we're going to sit up here and read the document, and when we're ready we will carry on. So we can turn the recording off for a moment while we're reading. So we're formally adjourned for the moment. Thank you. We're formally resuming. The committee has read Mr. Coxhill's submissions. Thank you very much. I think we're now ready to proceed, unless there's any other preliminary matters from anybody. And we have omitted the document and read it, so we call it Exhibit 2, with the main bundle being Exhibit 1. Any other preliminary matters from anybody? Pause. No. Okay, Mr. Phelan, would you outline the case, please, for us?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, all. This application for a variation relates to Walton Cafe, ground floor 48 Walton Street, London, SW31RB. The premises operates as a cafe and restaurant and comprises a ground floor, basement, external terrace and front forecourt. The premises currently benefits from a premises licence, permitting the sale of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises between 11 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and between 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. on Sunday. The applicant seeks to vary the premises licence to extend the hours for the sale of alcohol on and off the premises to 11:30 p.m. Monday to Saturday and 10:30 p.m. on Sunday. The application also seeks to add the provision of late night refreshment indoors between 11 p.m. and midnight Monday to Saturday. The applicant is also seeking to amend Condition 19 relating to the use of the external seating area, which, if granted, would permit later removal of the tables and chairs within the front forecourt area, Chair. The licensing authority has received 13 representations objecting to the application, including representations from Councillor Mary Wheel and the Knightsbridge Association. 26 representations have been received, which are in support of the application, Chair. At the time of writing in the report, 7 complaints were recorded in the preceding 24 months. The premises has also been the subject of 10 temporary event notices in the preceding year. The Planning Department has confirmed that the use detailed in the application aligns with the lawful planning use, and the officer confirms that there are no planning conditions controlling opening hours. A copy of the officer's email is attached at Appendix G. Chair, those are the matters before members this afternoon. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Phelan. I'm going to turn to Mr. Coxill now to make your case. I'll give you 10 minutes to go ahead, please.
Yes, may it please you, sir. I hope and I'm grateful to you all for reading the document prepared on behalf of the applicant, which sets out the submissions on his behalf. The application has been fairly set out by the officer, and so I don't propose to detain you any longer with that. I do, however, submit, in short, that the application promotes the licensing objectives in that it falls squarely within the general rules and norms set out in the licensing objectives and the policy, and does not, quote, unreasonably disturb, end quote, local residents. Secondly, it's submitted that the application only seeks parity with other comparable premises on Walton Street. And thirdly, it's submitted that the application is a fair balance between the interests of the applicant and the local residents. Of course, you'll be familiar with the task that you face this afternoon, as set out in paragraph 4 of my document, namely that you have to balance the rights of the residents not to be unreasonably disturbed against the rights of the businesses such as Walton Cafe to operate and make a positive contribution to the local area. I emphasise, if I need to, the word unreasonably in the context of the policy. The test is whether residents would be unreasonably disturbed by the granting of the application. The relevant extracts of the policy are set out from paragraph 5 of my document onwards. In particular, you will note in chapter 10, the closing hours, that it is a general rule that the council will license summertime terraces and pavement licenses to operate no later than 10 p.m. In addition, in respect of late night refreshments referred to in chapter 14, the policy states that midnight is considered a suitable terminal hour for these activities. And then in chapter 9, entitled Alfresco and Summertime Terraces, the policy gives a flavour of some of the positive aspects of outdoor dining that have grown since the COVID lockdown. In addition, at paragraph 17.5, there is rehearsed the test that you must apply in respect of both applications and applications to vary licences. And in particular, I emphasise at the bottom of page 3 of my document that before refusing an application on these grounds, namely consideration of the potential for public nuisance, the authority will consider whether such disturbance may be avoided by the imposition of conditions, to which I will come in a moment. In short, then, my submission is the application is in line with the general rule as stated in 10.7 and the reference in the policy at chapter 14 to the suitable terminal hour being midnight. In fact, it is, as you will see, proposed to be half an hour earlier. In terms of the background, I don't propose to trouble you in any more detail than that which is set out in the document. In short, the applicant is a United Kingdom resident and has the right to work here. He is a local man who schools his children locally and whose wife works in the cafe restaurant as well. It is, by definition, a family business, and the patrons of that business are local people, as demonstrated by the supporting testimonials that appear in Appendix D. I set out some of the history from paragraph 12 onwards of Walton Street itself, and remind you that whilst there is some distinction between what's called the southern half and the northern half of Walton Street, it is right to say that 5 establishments appear in each of those sections, as it were, of Walton Street. They are listed in footnote 1 on page 4, and I don't propose to take any more time on that. But the important aspect of my submission is that the street itself is and always has been a mixed-use street. And so it is not, as has been suggested, a residential street in that sense, because historically it has been used for mixed use, including restaurants such as Scalini, which is but 50 metres from the Walton Cafe, together with the restaurant Dining, which is immediately opposite and indeed immediately underneath the home address of some of those who are objecting to the application. Overall, then, it's submitted that Walton Street has for decades been a destination for luxury shopping and eating. I set out in paragraph 17 of my document a direct comparison between those eateries to which I've already referred, namely Dinings and Scalini and the Enterprise Public House, and compare their hours, terminating hours, with those of the applicant's premises. You will see, for example, in respect of Dinings, it is entitled to sell alcohol until midnight from Monday to Saturday, and so on. In particular, Scalini, I draw your attention to, because that restaurant is entitled to supply alcohol both on and off the premises until 1 a.m. and provide late-night refreshments indoors until 1 a.m. In terms of the complaints that have been made since the original premises licence was granted, I set out the individual responses from paragraph 18 onwards and don't propose to go into any more detail, but in short submit that they are of a relatively minor nature, one of which was an oversight for which there was a sincere apology at a residents' meeting that was held by the applicant. And in addition to that, the others, 4 of them, related to the failure to stack some of the furniture immediately outside the restaurant and to the side of the restaurant, which has since been rectified, and you'll see the reason that was given for that initially. I deal with, at paragraph 24 onwards, the way in which the applicant proposes to promote the licensing objectives. In short, the applicant is willing to abide by conditions that the committee would consider to be appropriate in addition to those that have been outlined. And in fact, those that have been outlined by the legal officer are not objected to in that sense. And so I draw your attention then to the paragraph 28 of my submissions, in which I address some of the specific objections, but more under the heading of the objections being in respect of the licensing priority amounting to the prevention of public nuisance. And to that extent, I draw your attention to paragraph 31, and it is submitted by some of the objectors that the extending the license or the alcohol license will increase the volume of late-night visitors and the noise. I invite you to note that during the period that the license operated until 2300 hours between September 2023 and September 2024, there were no complaints concerning the volume of noise emanating from within the premises or from patrons leaving the premises, and that there were no complaints arising from events using TENS licenses. I ought to add a qualification to that. Of course, there was a complaint relating to the violinist, but you will have seen that that was explained, and it was a misunderstanding of the TENS license enabling the violinist to be both outside and inside, and that was rectified and never completed. You have been provided with various supporting documents, some of the authors of which have appeared today and are available to answer questions, but I submit that the application ought to be granted on the basis set out in the conclusion at paragraph 34.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cox-Hill. And we're going to turn to questions from the committee. I'm going to start on my right with Councillor Burns, please.
Thanks, Chair. I have a couple of questions, but first of all, can I just get an understanding of how the daily business runs? Can you tell us more about sort of the business model?
The business model is in the process of evolving from a cafe that opens in the morning, and significant investment is being made into the kitchen premises, for which planning permission was granted in the very recent past for an extension of that kitchen. It currently serves members of the local community, it being on a route, for example, to and from local schools, and it continues to serve those residents in the evening. The difficulty that the applicants have come across, however, is that those local residents wish to consume alcohol past the current time when they are taking dinner at the cafe restaurant, and they're unable to do so. And so, in essence, the applicants are losing trade to local restaurants who do have extended licensing hours, as I've set out in the document. And so this isn't a question, as has been suggested by one of the objectors, that the intention is to turn what is a family-run cafe restaurant into some nightclub for use of those who live outside the local area. In fact, all that they propose to do is to further serve local residents by providing better facilities and the ability to both take late refreshments and alcohol past the current restricted time.
Thank you. So it's a cafe restaurant. That's what I was getting at, right? So it's not like an event space or anything like that. You have no plans to do that?
No.
Please speak.
We are starting from breakfast, and we are planning to carry on to late dinner.
Thank you. Also, with the tables and chairs, you break them down, yes, and to render them unusable. Is that what you do currently? And is it an easy process to do, or do people try and use them even though they're not usable?
The applicant may be best placed to answer that particular question. I can assist with how they're broken down, but the other question perhaps the applicant can assist.
Maybe to help you also, how is it monitored? How do you monitor that? Is there a manager that takes charge or something?
Yeah, the chairs, after 8:30, we thought by the council authority to put them on top to each other. We didn't know that like a year ago, but after last year we do that every night. After 8:30 to put the chairs on top to each other, which affect our dinner as well, because people who passing by, they think the restaurant is closed on the time if they see the chairs outside on top to each other.
Could I also invite the applicant's wife to answer that question, who is responsible for the day-to-day running of the restaurant and also what goes on outside it?
Hello, I'm Antonetta, and I run that business from morning until the evening. We found difficult to put the tables and chairs inside because we have such a small space inside, and they told us to put the chairs on top of each other. But that one, it affecting our business, because who is passing by the street, they think the business is closed, and looks so sad for the neighbors as well, because all of the neighbors, even the lady who live upstairs, Shannon Pascal, she always asks us, you don't need to put the chairs on top of each other because that one affects me, she said. It looks so sad. I can't go inside my home if I see this space like this. And we lost a lot of customers at this time because we pushed them to go inside at 8:20. We need 10 minutes, 15 minutes to put the chairs on top of each other. And for summertime, no one wants to sit inside. This one, it means we lost the business.
Forgive me, may I just invite, I understood the question, one of the questions to be, how does the restaurant staff police the fact that patrons may or may not use the chairs and tables outside? Part of the answer to that, I suppose, is that they are, as it were, put away and deconstructed. But if anyone does try to use those tables, what do you do?
We need to push them.
We used to put the reserve, the table are reserved. But now, on the seated chairs on top of each other, nobody.
And as something, even the people who walking by, I had one case last time. We have a neighbor. She is an old woman, like 89 years old, with a little dog, and she asked me to sit outside, and I didn't allow her. Honestly, I feel sad, because this is not normal, but I can't do nothing.
I hope that goes some way to answering that question and the extent to which the rule is currently being policed.
Yes, thanks. I have another question. In the big pack, page 109, there were some complaints, but the dates are like 2024, 25. What happened since then that there have been no complaints? Did you change a strategy or do something different to ensure there were no further complaints? I'm just curious to know. So if you look on page 109, it shows you a few of the complaints, but they are from June 2024 to June 2025.
May I ask, are you referring to what I have as Appendix F?
Yes, Appendix E, sorry, Appendix E. And it's on the
yes, thank you.
Main pack. And basically, I'm just curious, because there were a few complaints around that time, but there haven't been since. So what was your strategy, or what did you do to resolve these specific complaints?
You'll have to forgive me, of course. The applicant's first language isn't English, so may I assist with
Yes.
with your question?
Yes.
Did you change everything you did following these complaints?
I need to be every day there. On that time.
Even that one was
The answer to that question very simply is that Mrs. Cherry is there every day to ensure that they are complied with.
Okay.
And you'll see that one of the complaints is explained in my document as the mistake of a new staff member. And so the decision was made, it would seem, for Mrs. Cherry to be present every day to ensure that the licensing conditions are complied with. In addition to that, of course, you'll know that in about October 2025, there was a residents' meeting at which views were shared. Some of those who are present here, I understand to have been present at the residents' meeting, and I know not whether that, as it were, assisted the situation, and you will note that there don't appear to have been at least any complaints made to the council since that meeting. And like all these things, perhaps you would agree that much of this is about communication between the applicants and the local residents, to ensure that their views are heard and taken into account. And they are and have been very keen to be amenable to that and to have an open line of communication with them. They are but a family who are trying to run a business, but they accept that your decision today is to balance both the residents' views and rights with their own.
Thank you. Yes, communication is key. So you are the force that keeps it running like clockwork. What happens if you're not there, or if you're on holiday and someone else? Is there any staff training or anything to ensure that they can keep a tight ship like you seem to be doing?
Yeah, for sure. I train the staff and I let them the notice before 10 minutes, like 8-20 minutes, you need to put the chair on top of each other. I always train them, but sometimes happens that is a new staff member and it happens that they misunderstand. Because it was 18th of May, I had a new member of the staff and I told them 8:30 we are allowed outside, but she thought it was the alcohol until 8:30 we can serve. And for that day I sent one message to the council because it was like apologize email to the council because it was like 10-15 more minutes than 8:30.
I think I've referred to it in the document, but it is in effect self-reporting. There was an incident in May where there was a new staff member who'd not stacked the chairs and tables in the way they ought to have done, and Mrs. Cherry self-reported that incident and apologised.
Okay, and one other thing, do you have any sort of windows or bifolding doors that you keep open or anything like that?
No, there's a single door.
Because I can't really tell from the diagram. I wasn't sure if that orange line was to say that it might be. If you look at page 24, ground floor map, the wall, there's I guess it's a window. It's orange in my diagram, next to the al fresco, the first one. I wasn't sure if that was perhaps some kind of bifolding door or anything, or I don't know why it was orange.
No, we have just a small door.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so that's just a window.
It's a window, glass
Yeah.
window.
Okay. All right.
The oranges should be the chairs.
Yeah. Okay. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Nurse.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My question is around the use of alcohol. I mean, sales is proposed after 23:30, but the external seating will ease by 22 hours. how will you ensure that alcohol purchased before 22 hours is not subsequently used or consumed outside after seating area have closed?
How did you ensure that? Did you move them inside?
Yes.
Yes. The applicant would ensure that those patrons who had purchased alcohol would be moved inside the premises. And I say would because, in fact, that was the procedure when the original license was granted in 2023, which expired in September 2024, up until 11 p.m. And so that was how it was policed then. And I don't understand there to have been any complaints of the nature that you have described during that 1 year period. And so it would appear that their procedure worked for that period. And so they would employ the same procedure if you were good enough to grant the application until 11:30 on this occasion.
That's helpful, thank you. Just got one more question. So these are related on when your customers are leaving the premises. So if customers are required to leave the trace by 22 hours, what measures will be there to prevent for them to stand outside Walton Street, where they're smoking, socializing, or continuing to talk to each other because they are leaving the building?
Yes, Mr. Cherry reminds us that he gives those patrons 20 minutes warning before they're required to move, and that is usually sufficient to deal with the problem that you have suggested may occur. And of course, if the license were to be granted, those patrons could move inside and consume alcohol in there. Yes, of course. Forgive me for a moment.
That issue is because only we are 8:30 and the area is 10 o'clock, and people get confused. They're going there, they say that. But at 10 o'clock, everybody knows you need to leave all fresco.
I see. One of the issues that have arisen from the difference between the current licensing permissions on the applicant's premises as compared to other premises in the local area is that patrons have become confused as to when they can be outside, when they can be outside their restaurant. And so it's submitted that by standardizing, as it were, those times across the local area, that would also assist the patrons to know what the rules are. And so it would also limit the possibility of the rule being broken.
Well, that's helpful, thank you. Chair, I have no further questions.
Thanks. Councillor Burns, I think you've got a supplementary.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is really about noise. So how do you monitor and assess sort of noise from patrons, music, and also you said you were refurbing the kitchen, so obviously any, what do you call it? Extraction noises or things like that. How do you monitor all of those potential noise issues?
One of the suggestions that the applicant has made is the installation of a decimeter to measure the amount of noise outside the premises. Forgive me, I'm so sorry. But also, you will have noted, and as I've said many times, that during the period where the license was varied to 11 p.m., there weren't any complaints that related to the noise that emanated from the restaurant. And the current application is but 30 minutes extension to that period. And so we would expect the position to remain the same. In terms of the building work, Mr. Cherry and Mrs. Cherry are investing a great deal into the property, and they would seek to do everything they possibly could, if not simply for their own patrons' benefit and convenience, to ensure that any extraction noises were minimised. And of course, you will be familiar with other restaurants who employ such equipment to great effect, and I'm sure they would undertake to do so as well.
Thanks. Few from me, if I may. I was picking up on the complaints and the later licence that the applicants had for a one-year period from September 23 to September 2024, which wasn't wholly dissimilar from what's being applied for today. We've only got one complaint from that period, which is the June 24 one, which was noise from party inside the premises and pavement still in use after 2030 breach of the conditions. There's nothing else from that year. Is that because there were no other complaints, or because our records only cover a 2-year period up before the date of this hearing?
I'm afraid you'd have to ask those who prepared this document that question. I'm unfamiliar with it. I'm working simply with the documents that have been provided to the committee.
Let me try the government. In fact, Mr. Phelan might know the answer to that.
Thank you, Chair. I would need to look historically. We would normally present the last 24 months of complaints, but I can look further back and give the answer during the course of this hearing, if that's okay.
Would you do that, please? Because,
absolutely.
Because I think what happened in the whole of that year, from 23 to 24, is quite relevant to our consideration.
I'll prepare an answer for you now, Chair.
Leave that with you and come back to us with the answer when you've got it. But my next question for the applicant then is, well, what's the significance of the terminal hours that you've sought this time? 23:30 for cease of sale of alcohol. Why not midnight? Why not 2300? Why have you gone for 23:30?
They are broadly in line with the general rules set out in the licensing policy. It is 23:30 hours rather than midnight for the personal convenience of the family rather than anything else. And for, as Mr. Cherry points out, they'll be preparing for the breakfast session the next day. And so it is for their convenience and well-being, really, that it doesn't extend to midnight. But the times also are important because they broadly concur with those that are imposed on other local premises, as I've set out in the document. And so it assists customers in knowing what the general rule is in that immediate area, as opposed to having different rules for different establishments, thereby confusing them. So the significance of the 11:30 is a personal one, but broadly the timings correlate to those other, well, first of all, the policy and those other premises in the area.
Just a point of detail on tables and chairs. I'm just wondering why, as you're closed outside after 8 p.m., why the tables and chairs aren't stacked up in the rear yard after the closure?
May I take instructions on that?
Why don't you stack the tables and chairs in the yard? Tables and chairs? Why don't you put them around the back? Is there space for them?
There's a space for them, but there I need to do the extension, kitchen extension, outright fix the garden. I don't use the garden.
I see. Okay. So my understanding is that, first of all, the garden, that area is not being used in the sense that it is subject to the building work. But in addition to that, of course, moving the tables and chairs even further may incur further noise caused to local residents by the movement of the tables and chairs. And in fact, that's one of the objections that was raised about the noise that would be caused by the movement of tables and chairs. So it is the least inconvenient thing to do, both from their point of view and also from the local residents' point of view, simply to stack up the chairs in the front area and away from the pavement. They are stacked now in such a way as to make it clear that they're not in use. There had been an attempt to make it clear by the use of reserved symbols, for example, and turning the tables and chairs in order to perhaps not make the restaurant look quite as closed as it might do. But the applicants now accept that that's not permissible, and so have stacked them in the way that has been suggested by the local authority.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, I think in relation to Councillor Noer's earlier question, the existing condition 19, which you're seeking to extend, already requires customers to be, the areas outside the front to be kept clear of customers from currently 8:30, but you're proposing to change it to 10 p.m. So I think you were asking earlier on about keeping the front area clear. So that's already covered by condition 19. Thank you.
I'm very grateful for your assistance. I hadn't appreciated that. Thank you very much.
Now, it's now the opportunity for the objectors to ask questions of the applicants. Now, you might not be completely familiar with this process, so just for guidance, this is not your chance to make your case. You're going to have that chance later on. You'll have 10 minutes each. But if you have any questions of the applicant, please phrase them as a question through me. I don't really want any repetition of anything the committee's covered, but if anything extra, please go ahead. And I don't mind which order you go in as to who starts first. Mr. Rickard, your microphone is on already, so please go ahead.
So, Chair, sorry, just to clarify, this is not an opportunity to refute any statements we've just heard from Council.
No, it's an opportunity to ask any questions of the applicant. I mean, how you phrase it is key to this.
In terms of the
not to give evidence yourself, no.
No, ask questions in terms of the operation of the cafe or specifics of the application submitted? Yeah,
anything that's a question you can ask that hasn't already been covered.
Oh, I'd like to know, and maybe Council can address this on behalf of the applicant, is that whilst they've been very diligent in listing permissible terminal hours for the licenses of comparable venues, they've omitted to disclose the actual closing times of these venues, which are materially earlier than the license permits. I'd like to know why that's been omitted from the submission.
Okay, I'm going to bring the legal officer in on this.
Closing times aren't licensable activities in themselves. They're just shaped around the licensable hours. And quite often you find that premises, for whatever reason, commercial reasons, they close earlier than what is listed as their licensable activities. So it's up to them in that aspect. I don't know if that's what you're asking.
Oh, well, I think that's clear. The point I will come to with mine is why at our end of Walton Street, which whilst never claimed to be wholly residential, we have to accept is overwhelmingly residential, why those businesses close materially earlier than the licenses permit.
Any other questions for the applicant about their application? Mr. Rickard, Mr. Menon? Mr. Menon, you go for it now.
If I may, Chair, if I may ask the applicant, in paragraph 11 of this document we have just read, a statement is made that the patrons of the cafe are principally local people. I wonder whether the applicant would agree with me that this is in fact an incorrect statement. 22 of their supporters do not live on Walton Street. so much for the cafe being predominantly locally.
Okay, you put your point. Let's see what the applicant has to say about that.
We may be arguing on the issue of the definition of the word local.
Sorry, may I speak?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, not all of the people they support us are neighbors, but more than 13 people are neighbors. And a lot of customers, they are not neighbors, but they live around Walton Street, and they are customers, and they are happy to welcome back on our shop with their kids as well. All our customers are family people, are not noisy people, and even if not all the people that support us are not neighbors, but the people who complain, I don't understand, because how they complain if they are not living there, and if they are not neighbors as well, and if they never been customer on our coffee. This one is my worry.
May I make two additional points, perhaps to explain paragraph 11. The use of the word local was to indicate perhaps that those who use and enjoy the cafe restaurant currently don't travel from afar, for example, in cars or taxis, in order to use the restaurant. They live in the local area in the sense of the surrounding streets. So to that extent, I was using the word local to indicate those who lived in the local area rather than necessarily live on Walton Street. But I would draw your attention to the supporting statement of Sean Pascal, who in fact lives in the flat immediately above the restaurant and supports the application. And so whilst I don't, of course, seek to denigrate in any way the objector's views, I do suggest that there are differing views from those who even they would describe as local by their definition.
Mr. Cogswell, can you give me a page number for Sean Pascal?
Yes, of course. She is supporter 25.
Sorry, page 20.
In D, in Appendix D,
yeah.
She is supporter 25.
Page 103, thank you.
Thank you. Forgive me, I don't have the
You don't have
the pagination, but I do have the appendices. And
Can I just point out, as a matter of fact, we do have the addresses, at least not the street addresses, but the road names for everybody who's written in support, some of which are closer than others to the cafe, of course. So, Mr. Menon, any other questions?
I'm sorry, Chair, any counter to that, or?
No, it's a questions. I think we've covered that point.
Yes, we've covered that.
Let's move on to the question, please.
In paragraph 13, if I may ask the applicant, they have stated that Walton Street has never been wholly or nearly wholly residential in nature. I think this is incorrect because the council's own voting records would show you that it is, on the contrary, particularly this end of Walton Street, an overwhelmingly residential street.
Is this moving towards a question for the applicant, or is this a statement?
It is a question. They have made this one of their key statements. Walton Street has always been mixed use and has never been wholly or nearly residential in nature. this is in fact incorrect.
So your assertion that
Question mark.
it is not
Inaccurate.
So if I put that into terms of the question, then you're saying it's mostly residential, and I want to ask the applicant what you say to that.
And we respectfully disagree, looking at the history of Walton Street. What I'm not suggesting is that there aren't any residential premises there. Of course I'm not. But what I do refute is the suggestion that the area is or is nearly wholly residential in nature. It just isn't, looking A, at the history, and B, at the other premises just across the street and across the street and but 50 metres away. There is a restaurant that has been there since 1988 that currently has licensing permissions to open and sell alcohol and to use the outside to do that much longer than the applicant's premises.
Right, we're clearly a point of disagreement there. The committee will make its own mind up based
of course.
on our knowledge. So, Mr. Menon, any other questions from you?
Thank you, Chair. In paragraph 15, if I may draw the applicant's attention to the ground floor of Walton House housed a club from at least the 1950s. I think that implies, and this is a question, that by club they mean a nightclub. In point of fact, historically, this was a squash club at which an extremely, I would assume, unfit Winston Churchill used to play squash. It has never been a nightclub.
This is not a question. I'm
Okay.
really not interested in what happened in the 1950s. I mean, it's in there, but we just need to move on.
Right, accepted, Chair. In paragraph 18, they strongly refute that the cafe has a poor record of compliance. If I may draw their attention to complaints that have been filed since 1922 when they started operations, when their operations included advertising on the Instagram an illegal cigar bar inside the restaurant, which I say illegal because it was then and remains banned in law.
Sorry, Mr. Menon, this is a question session. It's a question session for the applicant. So
okay.
I did ask the question of Mr. Phelan what complaints have been filed.
One last question then, sir.
Just pause for a moment because I want to ask Mr. Phelan if he might. This might be an opportunity.
I'm available to provide you with an update now if you want, Chair, regarding complaints.
Just to remind you, I asked if there were any complaints during the year before the 2-year period that we've got in our pack. When this establishment had a liquor licence.
So, Chair, having checked the history of Walton Cafe, there were no complaints relating to noise, but there was one complaint that was relating to the conditioned residents association meetings not taking place in accordance with what was required. From what I could discover on the case, it appears that it was rescheduled and resolved, and there was no further action. So that was the only additional complaint that was received in 2024 to what has been presented within the report.
So you said 2024, does that include the period of 2023 from September when they had a later licence as well?
I will double check the 2023 period. Apologies, I misunderstood the question. I'll get that bit there.
The later licence started in September 2023 and lasted for 1 year till September 2024.
Absolutely. I'll just verify the 2023 end of.
No complaints about noise in the calendar year 2024 apart from what we've got in the pack and the one you've described about.
Correct. I'll double check 2023.
We'll come back on 2023. And I don't think I want to go back as far as 2022. and cigar bars because that's not really relevant to what we're talking about today. But Mr. Manon, you had maybe had some more questions, or you don't?
No, Chair.
Great, thank you very much. And so you answer on the end.
Yes, thank you very much. Just, Mr. Chair, one question to the applicant around what is the use of the backyard of the cafe, and to what extent is any license extended to this part of the property?
Thank you very much. So over to the applicant.
My understanding is that that area is not currently used. There used to be chairs and tables, but is no longer used. And it's envisaged that that is the area into which the kitchen will be extended.
Am I right in thinking there might be some conditions associated with that yard at the moment? To remind me, maybe the legal officer will jump on it as well.
I'm just having a look through the conditions, but from memory and from reading the pack, I believe the whole area is covered by the licence, but the yard is restricted by a condition. I'm just trying to find the
Thank you, I'm
condition.
grateful.
I think it's condition 20. The external rear terrace shall be kept clear of all customers from 8 p.m. to 10 the following day, and the doors leading to such terrace shall be kept closed. So yes, it is part of the licence area, but it's restricted by condition to those times, or before those times.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks very much. Any supplementaries from the committee? We've heard all that. No, okay, I think that now brings us to the end of the case for the applicants, and we can move on to the case for the... Mr. Phelan, you can answer for me.
It was just to answer the question with regards to the complaints in 2023. There does appear to have been a complaint on the 21st of October 23, which revolved around noise in the rear patio area. That was subsequently not witnessed by noise, and no further action was taken. That's the information I have available on that case.
So we now move on to the case for the objectors. So I'm going to give you each 10 minutes to present your case, and then we'll have a joint question session for all of you at the end of that point. And are we going to carry on in sequence? Rick, you're straight in there with your microphone, so would you like to go first?
Well, thank you, Chair and Committee. I'm just respectful of your time, so I actually have a small script so I can stick to it and therefore not take too much of your time. The aspect I want to cover relates to the written submission and application, and also what Council just presented. I particularly would like to address the inclusion of numerous restaurants and other outlets that are claimed to be comparable venues to Walton Cafe to justify a later licence in general. The application submission lists the terminal timings permissible under each venue's licence. However, they do not actually mention the actual closing time of these venues. Firstly, most of these so-called comparable venues in the written submission are on Beecham Place, which are all irrelevant. Walton Street is not Beecham Place and was never intended to be, whether in demographics or purpose. Walton Street, as RBKC's own specialists in the area of noise and nuisance have made clear on the record, is an overwhelmingly residential street, and the Walton Cafe end of it particularly so. Additionally, that our end of the street settles down at around 8 p.m. each evening, and that the street is highly reverberant, and that any extended hours for Walton Cafe could cause stress and disturbance to its neighbours. That's paraphrasing what is on the record. This informed opinion has helped shape RBKC's licensing authority decisions every time that a licence application has been submitted. We should dismiss the inclusion of any venues in Beecham Place, first and foremost. Let's turn to Walton Street. Our stretch was for decades a specially protected conservation zone, and remained so until the end of the COVID pandemic, when the cafe was allowed to open. It remains a unique stretch of the street. The cafe is one of only 5 commercial businesses: a jewellery shop, a beauty parlour, a hairdresser, and a fine wine store, Jeroboam's. All these businesses operate normal retail hours. So with this in mind, to address the other comparable venues that are more relevant given their comparative proximity to Walton Cafe, we have Jeroboam's, raised in the written submission, which is a retail outlet for the sale of fine wines. Irrespective of the permissible times on their license, their website, and I've got a copy of it here in my hand, clearly states that it closes at 8 p.m. 6 days a week and 6 p.m. on Sundays. I also have a current list of their planned summer events. These are all wine tastings, and all of them end at 8 p.m. Secondly, we've heard mention of Scarlini's on a number of occasions today. They are very responsible operators. Irrespective of the permissible timings under their license, their actual timings in practice are full close at 10:45 p.m. They are open 6 days a week only, and are closed on Monday. Lastly, the Enterprise, which is another venue with exemplary behavior towards neighboring residents. Again, they have later permitted hours under their license. However, their actual hours are until 11 p.m. only, 6 days a week, and only to 10:30 on Sundays. When the outside area is in use in the summer, they and the others strictly keep the doors to the main bar and restaurant closed. There is a comparable venue that is missing from the written list, but we have talked about it, and that is Dining's SW3 in Lennox Gardens Mews, and is located immediately below my flat, and my kitchen dining area are directly over their courtyard. They have more stringent restrictions, preventing the use since 1974 of the outside space beyond 6:30 p.m., given their proximity to neighboring residences. To make a point, last drinks orders is 11 p.m., and it closes absolutely by midnight, irrespective of the license terms. Despite living directly above Dinings, I have never had cause to complain about noise and public nuisance, given their planning restrictions and the restricted hours and their general attitude to neighbours. The licenses of all these comparable venues may say one thing, but in reality, all of the relevant comparables close much earlier. This is because for this end of Walton Street, the local demographic, the local market demand, is a 10:45, 11 p.m. market only, reflecting its overwhelmingly residential nature. The application for a midnight license with the sale of alcohol makes clear the intention for effectively a late-night bar, and targeted at a clientele from outside the immediate area, reflecting in the fact that out of the 26 supporters of the application, 22 do not live on Walton Street. We would face the very real risk of unacceptable levels of noise and public nuisance with late-night revelers, cars dropping and picking up, raised voices as people emerge from the cafe, noisy dispersal of these customers standing outside, smoking and talking, for example. Midnight, late-night refreshment would be unprecedented for this end of Walton Street, out of character with the local demographic profile, and shall inevitably result in noise and public nuisance on an unprecedented scale for this end of the street. The track record of Walton Cafe, to our minds, demonstrates that they are unwilling to ensure the quiet dispersal of their clients. As for later uses of the outside spaces by Walton Cafe, they may object to the restrictions, but tighter ones apply to Dining's SW3. And in their own application for an extension, in section M, additional steps, they concede that the outside areas shall not be used after 8:30 p.m. during parties or events, acknowledging that doing so would create noise and public disturbance. Ever since the cafe opened in 2022, it has operated in a most irresponsible manner, in our view, which has, as RBKC's records should show, included advertising on their Instagram an indoor private cigar lounge, which is banned by law, of course. Subsequently, there have been a spate of further violations, including but not confined to customers drinking but not eating, a violinist playing on the pavement, which we have heard about, admittedly, a belly dancer inside, all of which have caused immediate residents, neighbours, including myself, stress and noise and disturbance. I am comfortable with the Licensing Committee's current licensing hours of operation for the cafe, which are entirely reasonable. Any extension, however, inside and out, particularly given my proximity to the cafe, would impair my quality of life on the street. The late-night application should not be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Very much. Shall we move straight on to Mr. Menon, if you wish to make a statement for up to 10 minutes, please?
Thank you, Chair. I have also, with the aim of not repeating myself and not wasting your time, will read out from a written submission with your permission. The application for the substantially extended licensing hours is 26 supporters. This is an impressive number. However, only 4 of these live on Walton Street. 22 live outside Walton Street, sometimes on several of them away from the borough itself, one indeed as far away as Twickenham. There are 13 objections to this application. 10 are from people who do live in Walton Street. Of the remaining 3, as discussed, one is the Knightsbridge Association, one is our local ward councillor who has had the unfortunate experience of having dealt with the many problems caused, in her view, by the cafe since it first opened. This demonstrates a simple reality. This is essentially a local issue. Only the actual residents of the street, particularly those in the immediate vicinity, are impacted by the noise and nuisance generated by this cafe. Casual visitors who frequent the street return to their residences outside the street. We do not have that luxury, and they are not impacted in the way we are. In my case, and that of the residents of 3 flats in Walton House, which I might add is the only building directly opposite the cafe, as your map will show, we have objected to this application because we literally do face the full onslaught of the noise and nuisance generated by the cafe. My bedroom, for instance, directly faces the cafe, and the sound from groups of people laughing and conversing loudly, the noisy dispersal of its customers into the late evening, carries straight into my bedroom. This is perfectly manageable until 8:30 p.m. by closing my bedroom windows. Thereafter, it becomes a real issue, especially in summer. As you will appreciate, one does need to open the windows as much for ventilation as for the breeze. At 10 p.m. outside usage will result in my requiring to keep my windows closed, even at night. In September 2023, when the licensing committee was considering a second application to extend the licensing hours of the cafe, they obtained the professional advice of Mr. Mahaffey of RBKC's Environmental Health, Noise and Nuisance team, whose submissions were reflected in the committee's full decision. Mr. Mahaffey explained that he was concerned about the impact of the later hours upon residents. He added that this section of Walton Street was more residential and generally quietened down after 8 p.m. He noted that Walton Street was a highly reverberant street, and that any extended hours, that is beyond 8 p.m., could cause stress and disturbance to the neighbors. In his professional opinion, the hours on the existing license were optimum for the location of the premises in terms of the external areas. In response to questions from the then legal advisor, Mr. Mahaffey confirmed that he was happy for the application to be granted solely in respect of the interior of the premises and only until 11 p.m. on Mondays to Saturdays and until 9:30 p.m. on Sundays. Chair, this is a direct quote from the licensing committee's full decision. The committee took his professional submission into consideration, but having regard for the commercial interests of the cafe, extended the recommended use of the outside space, including the parking bay when permitted, to 8:30 p.m. The committee also extended licensing hours inside the cafe to the current timings. It is my view that the committee's decision was equitable, was fair, and was well balanced for both the cafe and its residential neighbors. It is important to note that the cafe has not disputed the professional opinion of R.B. Casey's Noise, Nuisance and Environmental team. What was a fact in 2023 remains a fact today in 2026. Nevertheless, they are seeking even further extended licensing hours, both outside and inside, with late-night alcohol refreshments until midnight 6 days a week and until 11:30 p.m. on Sundays. In doing so, they are demonstrating once again a basic lack of civic sense and of sense of shared space with their overwhelmingly residential neighbors. The goal of the prevention of public nuisance is to minimize disturbance to the local community. The cafe has, over the last 4 years, in my opinion, spectacularly failed to do so. They have regularly and egregiously violated their license, causing residents, especially those in the immediate vicinity, stress from the noise and nuisance and the need to be constantly vigilant by providing video and photographic evidence to RBKC. Can this operator be relied upon to respect extended external and internal licensing hours? All the evidence over the last 4 years shows that they cannot, in my opinion, be trusted. Only last year, on the 16th of June 2025, for example, the licensing officer issued the operators with a written warning in response to a photographically evidenced complaint filed with them and advised them that further breaches would result in legal action. 2 days later, on the 28th of June, another resident filed a video complaint as evidence. Later than current external operating hours, as RBKC's own official professional opinion has noted, which is not disputed by the cafe, would result in significant additional noise and public nuisance, particularly to residents in the immediate vicinity, and I strongly object to any such extension. I may add, Chair, that this is their 4th application in less than as many years. One, as their legal counsel has advised, having been withdrawn only last year. I stress that I am not being unreasonable. I fully support our local businesses. I am a regular patron of the enterprise. I regularly buy alcohol from Jeroboam's. I regularly attend dinners at both Dinings and Scarlini's. But I cannot emphasize more strongly how adversely the impacted the quality of my life and those of the local community would be if they were to be granted any further extended hours, particularly in regard to the external areas. And I urge you to please reject this application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mellon. And now I'm going to turn to Mr. Schwinner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to make these remarks on behalf of my wife, Flaminia Gonzalez Barber Bolza, and my mother-in-law, Mrs. Elizabeth Bolza, the owners of 50A Walton Street, the building just adjacent to Walton Cafe. I would like to stress that the particular impact of any further extended opening hours would especially affect our property above all others, both at the rear and the front end of our house. We have in the past seen often inebriated clients literally on the doorsteps, leaving little to no room to maneuver when entering or exiting our home. Our residential and quiet family home that has been in the family for many years has been reduced to a lodging at the foot of a full-fledged bar, leaving little to no privacy to us. We are subjected to noise and smells permeating our homes from both sides. Not being able to open our windows late in the evening on both sides would further jeopardize the right to our peaceful enjoyment of our homes. and make it utterly unsuitable for us young and hard-working family members and our young children. As much as we would love to have an actual family-friendly real cafe in our vicinity, we are extremely unhappy about having a bar with the ambition of becoming an even later night venue on our doorstep, and strongly feel that our rights as peaceful and law-abiding house owners are being violated by the nature and expansion of this operator, who now literally encircles our home. Smoke, cigar, and cigarette smoke is a serious health and safety concern for our children, who are of the age of 3 years, and there's more children on their way, and our family is expecting more children, and we would love to return to the home that we currently are not living in. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. Now we have an opportunity to ask you questions. I'm going to start to my right with Councillor Burns, please.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, so a couple of questions. So in the main report, the last date of complaints is shown as the 16th of June 2025. What has happened since then that there have been no recorded complaints? Has something changed, or have the applicants been, I don't know, want for a better word, behaving better? I don't know if that's the right word, but what has changed, and why have there been no more since June 16th, 2025?
May I give a reply? In October of that year, we were put on notice by the cafe at a residents' meeting that they would be shortly applying for a news license. This new license was indeed applied for in January of this year, and therefore, obviously, to me, there have been no complaints since October of last year, because they have been aware that their application would be coming up for review.
Yes, but they had some temporary event notices, the 3rd of June 2025, and then sporadically to February 2026, and the last recorded complaint. So, like, obviously, if someone has an issue, they complain, right? So I'm just trying to figure out why have there not been any complaints since June the 16th, 2025, because, you know, that's quite a fundamental point, an issue, and we can only work with the evidence we're given. So have they been working effectively and efficiently, or is there something that we're missing? Please explain.
Not to my knowledge.
Well, no, I don't want to mislead or anything like that. But the point does remain that whenever a new application is in the offing, the behaviour really does improve. And latterly, it's been related to tables and chairs. I'm not going to claim otherwise. That would be excessive. But part of our frustration is, well, it's twofold. I mean, one doesn't want to be overly picky. I mean, there are other opportunities or instances where we could make an issue, but you can't just do that every day. You know, it becomes boring for us as well. And we don't want to be entirely unreasonable. But there was filed on record a complaint after the October 25 residents' meetings. Council have said, you know, communication is key, and a number of us were invited, along with Councillor Merriwell, to attend a residents' meeting as is required under the licence conditions. And there was an established agenda for that meeting, which was completely ignored. We're on record as complaining because what actually happened was just, to our minds, an ambush, saying, you know, we're going to be responsible for closing a business down, etc., which is pretty hostile environment. That was a pretty unpleasant reminder in October, and that is on record. It should be on the council's records. But other than that, no. To be fair, we've not had the sort of disturbance we had before.
Thank you. Also, so earlier I established that it is a restaurant and their key objective is to be a cafe restaurant. I know somewhere in this whole batch that there was concerns that it might become like a late night bar. They specifically said it will not be, it's a restaurant, and so the intention in my head and what I understood is that the restaurant is, they want the alcohol to be served with a meal, and it's a seated restaurant, not a bar. Would that help you at all if that's actually the case, or are you genuinely concerned that that may not be the case?
I personally am genuinely concerned that may not be the case, given the midnight request, and that the record shows that they have served alcohol to people before without a meal. But midnight just stands out, just strike me as excessive, and that's where the risk exists.
So just looking, just in case, I don't know if you looked at I know we're not talking about it now, but just as an aside, there's suggested draft conditions. Have you looked through them, and do any of those satisfy your concerns with regard to the way they operate or potentially could operate, or is it just you just absolutely don't want any change at all? Like, because if there's give and take, what we want to come to is a give and take situation where everyone can walk away happy as possible. So is there any sort of leeway or anything that is totally like, oh, this is absolutely not? I know you obviously mentioned some of the sounds from dispersal, but obviously if there are dispersal planning in place to kind of, manage people leaving the venue, would that ease your concerns at all?
Well, I suppose, to what extent at midnight do any of these dispersal plans actually get implemented or work? People have had a few drinks, and it's easier said than done. It's quite hard to impose it on staff late at night to implement all these. Right, it falls on them, the responsibility. So there's compliance issue, whether deliberately or otherwise. I just think, to the point I made, no other venue, despite their license terms, stays open that late at our end of the street. For me, midnight is the really unacceptable bit about this.
If I may, for me, the real issue is the external issue. If there was an adjustment in time, which was properly policed, there was proper control over the dispersal of their guests, then of course no one is such a Luddite or so bigoted that they would object to it. But I am most concerned about the external, both at the back and in the front of the property. That is a real issue for us, and indeed for people who are not just their immediate neighbors.
Thank you. Oh yes, we've got another comment. So.
I would just add, of course, that with what you said, our problem is again also from our side, from the Bolzer family side, is that the front and the rear, we're getting the double whammy constantly. That's very, very hard on a family, especially on a young family. It makes that house just inhabitable with regards to family. There's just the hours. You have small children that need sleep. You know it from your own children. You put them to sleep at sort of 8:30. And you need to have the windows open. So if people are in the backyard smoking cigars, chatting, or on the outside premises doing the same thing, it is absolutely impossible for a family to inhabit this house. So I'm with you that if it's enclosed inside, you know, I guess the problems are less. Issues are outside, violations of outside agitation.
Thanks. Councillor Nur, please.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, my question is, you did mention you are addressing your concerns and complaints to the local authority. Have you ever had the chance raising your concerns to the operator directly? And if so, what was the response?
We have had extraordinary support when Mr. Mahaffey of your environmental and noise and nuisance team was there. I mean, really exceptional advice. Mr. Phelan has been enormously responsive, to the extent that he can possibly be responsive. Occasionally, REKC officials have taken a, I wouldn't say unduly lenient, but have taken a lenient view, and where warnings could in theory have been issued, have just pointed it out and noted it. But our councillors have been absolutely superb on several occasions. All three of our ward councillors have complained. So RBKC's response has always been, in general, very good.
I think the councillor, your question was speaking directly to the operator. I think if you go back to the history of the Walton Cafe, and it's not been around that long, the early incidents on record were some of the most serious to our minds and disturbing. So whether it was the cigar lounge, which was a matter of record, where you know, it was the Tens, for example, and that just, I think the underlying issue you're hearing from the objectors here is one of trust. And we can put in dispersal plans, we can put in various things like that. It's trust. A lack of trust was established at the beginning of the history of the cafe, so it hasn't really encouraged or motivated us to go directly to the operator. We don't find him particularly approachable, and our experience in the residents' meeting last October, I think vindicated that view, that it was not someone we could deal with directly.
I think my questions about the number and nature of the complaints have already been well covered by Councillor Burns. I don't want to go further into that. Just one thing you might like to offer a comment on. Obviously, you're objecting, but you've rightly factually pointed out that the majority of support letters don't come from Walton Street, but some of them do, and some of them come from very close by. So it does seem to divide opinion in Walton Street quite significantly. So what do you have to say about that?
Chair, 4 of their supporters live on Walton Street. The others do not. Now, of people who have objected to this license, 4, including Casper, are there in the immediate vicinity. In short, there are 10 people on Walton Street who have objected to this. There are 4 people on Walton Street itself who have supported it. The preponderance of the objectors who actually do live on Walton Street is in favour of those who object to this application. It's easy enough, sir, for people who live on Longridge Road or Cadogan Gardens, or, you know,
my question was about Mr. Rickards has got something he wants to add.
Yeah, it was just, you were saying about it divides opinion because 4 people on Walton Street do support. It's just that it's relative proximity. They may well live on Walton Street. You know, I'm not here to comment on the quality of the food, etc. But they don't get to hear it. Or in Casper's case, yeah, but the letter of support is actually an expression of her frustration that she can't drink a glass of wine after 8:30. She doesn't talk about noise.
Just a couple of questions. So from what I'm hearing, it's the outside area which is the main issue. So in terms of the proposed application, do you object to the extended hours inside? I'm not talking about the outside areas. Do you object to them having the later times of alcohol till 11:30 Monday to Saturday, 10:30 Sunday, and obviously late night refreshment till midnight? Are you okay with those times for the inside? Then I'm going to ask you separately about the outside.
No, I was hoping I'd been consistent. I think midnight is excessive. Even 11:30 is pretty late, but it's the midnight that worries me more than anything.
What times would you consider? Obviously, late night refreshment doesn't kick in till after 11 p.m. It's deregulated up until 11 p.m. Alcohol obviously is always regulated. What times do you consider for inside?
So they can't sell alcohol after 11, you're saying?
No. I'm sorry. They've asked for late night refreshment indoors.
That's right.
From 11 p.m. Obviously, that's when it becomes regulated. So up till 11 p.m., I think they close earlier at the moment, but up till 11 p.m. they don't need a specific permission. What are your thoughts on late night refreshment till midnight and alcohol times till, I think it's 11:30 and 10:30 Sundays?
So they can still serve alcohol until 11:30?
The alcohol's always regulated. Sorry, at the moment, they can serve alcohol indoors and outdoors, subject to any condition restrictions, until 9:30 Monday to Saturday.
That's correct, yeah.
And 8 p.m. Sundays. And they're seeking to go till 11:30 and 10:30 on Monday to Saturday and Sundays. In respect of just the inside area, which doesn't seem to be as much of a contention as the outside area, what are your thoughts on timings for alcohol and late night refreshment?
I personally would say no to 12. Midnight, I made the point, is unprecedented.
Okay.
And I think I would find that unacceptable on Walton Street, at our end of Walton Street.
But what would be acceptable? If they're 9:30 now, Monday to Saturday, and they're asking for up to 11:30, what are your thoughts?
So the cafe closes at 11:30?
The cafe currently...
No, I know, sorry, I know what it currently
Yeah,
is, but
they're proposing to close at I'm not talking about closing hours, I'm talking about licensable activity times, because they usually... Late night refreshment can end at the same time as the shop closes, but alcohol usually is half an hour before to allow for 30 minutes drinking up time.
Yeah.
So they're proposing to have alcohol till 11:30 Monday to Saturday, which means their closing would be midnight, and 10:30 Sunday, so their closing would be 11.
Okay, so by extension, if we closed at 11:30,
11.
then alcohol would stop at 11, right?
I think what I'm trying to ask is what time would be acceptable to you? If they're asking to sell alcohol till 11:30, Monday to Saturday, what time would be good inside? What time would be good for you?
11:30 would work if that is the closing time of the cafe.
The closing time would be half an hour after that to allow for 30 minutes drinking up.
Okay.
So you're saying 11 p.m. licensable activities stop, and then the actual cafe close at 11:30.
That would be my preference.
For inside, okay. So 11:30. Okay, so turning to the outside areas, you've got the tables and chairs directly next to the shop, which actually form part of the on-sales of alcohol but can be restricted by condition. And then you've got the summertime terrace, which is on the road itself. There's already a condition which requires, well, I think it's till 8:30, but requires customers to have been removed from the area by 10 p.m. It's currently 8:30. This may be a question also for the applicant. I'd like your comments on the 11:30 p.m. final licensable activities for alcohol. Closing at 11:30 p.m. And I'd like your views on if you've got a pavement licence and that finishes at 10 p.m. and presumably there's 30 minutes drinking up before that, would you be amenable to a 10 p.m. cessation time for the external areas, even the bit directly outside the shop, if you've got to bring your tables and chairs in by that time anyway? So I'm probably not making much sense, am I?
Forgive me, my understanding is that is the proposal in any event, isn't it?
It's not, I don't think it's specifically stipulated. You've got till 10 p.m, well, the pavement licence directly next to the shop, I think, currently finishes at 8:30 p.m, not 10 p.m for some reason. I don't know why, but you can change that separately. That's a separate regime. And the one in the road closes at 10 p.m. And you have to have all customers moved from the area. So in terms of the external areas, and this may be a question for you as well, are you happy for alcohol to stop at to remain at 9:30 in those areas with 30 minutes drinking up, so they're off there by 10 p.m?
May I take instructions on both
Yes.
the points? Thank you.
And your thoughts on that as well, objectors? So 9:30, it's still 9:30 at the moment on the existing licence, but obviously they need to get their highways licence changed.
No, madam, it is not. It is currently 8:30.
Oh yes, sorry. The alcohol times are 9:30, but the pavement licence times are different. Sorry, I'm just trying to align everything.
May I indicate our position on the first of the suggestions? The suggestion that alcohol stop being served at 9:30 and then everyone, as it were, inside by 10. Then that is acceptable on behalf of the applicants. They do, however, wish to persist with the application for that licensable activity finishes at 11:30 and then closing by midnight. But
Okay,
of
so
course,
for the inside area, you want to stick to the application?
within the inside area, yes.
Okay.
But that's obviously a matter for the committee.
Okay. Right, so I think we've had everyone's thoughts on the timings. Is there anything that I've missed or anything anybody else wants to say on the timings?
Is there anything else you wanted to ask? I think just for the objectors, just to be clear, in case it wasn't clear, that late night refreshments is not regulated up to 2300. So although the restaurant cafe currently closes much earlier than that, there is nothing in law to stop them opening up till 1100 or 2300 and serving refreshments up to that time. That's not a licensable activity. It would be if they served alcohol, but we can't control them serving refreshments up till 2300. I mean, they've asked to serve for later, and that's something we did later than 2300. That's a decision we do have to make. But just so you know that that's something that's in their gift. It's not in our gift. It's their choice. So that's clear as it came up in the discussion earlier on. Did you want to come back on that, Mr. Rickards? You look like you were...
Sorry, Joe, I actually struggle to hear you sometimes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll try and project with the...
You're saying that, yes, so it's the 11:30 decision that you're facing as a licensing committee, if that's right?
Yes, so we've got a microphone live over that side, Mr. Coxhill.
Oh, is it my fault?
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think I just noticed it at that point. So just, Mr. Rickards, just for your information about how licensing works, the late night refreshments, so serving of hot food, only kicks in as a licensable activity after 2300. So even though the cafe currently closes at 21:30, there's nothing in law to stop them opening till 2300 if they wanted to and serving food up till that time. No, they can't serve alcohol on their current license, but they could serve food.
Understood.
So just so you're aware of what we're dealing with here, and it's some very specific things.
But the application just says late nights refreshments,
yes, and that
including alcohol.
So late night refreshments means food after 2300, and the alcohol is a separate element, and that's that they're currently restricted to 21:30 because that's the current license Monday to Saturday, and they're asking for later.
Yeah, but my reading of what they're asking for was late night refreshments, brackets including alcohol, close
They're
brackets.
two separate things.
Sorry?
They're two separate things.
But that's what they've put in their proposals.
Yeah, but yes, they are separate. They're asking for both, but they are separate elements to the
That's clear. Okay. That's clear.
Alcohol doesn't have deregulated times. It's always regulated, whatever the time.
No, that's
it's
all
only
clear.
late night refreshment that has regulated or deregulated times.
That's clear.
Right. So let me ask Mr. Cox-Hills if the applicants have any questions for the objectors.
Only relatively few. Mr. Menon mentioned the fact that there were 4 objectors who lived, in his words, in the immediate vicinity of the cafe. Could I ask whether, of those 4, they include both himself and Mr. Rickard?
Yes.
Could I ask Mr. Menon and Mr. Rickard to confirm that they, in fact, live in the same premises?
Yes, we do.
Could I ask Mr. Menon and Mr. Rickard whether, or how many of the complaints that are recorded against the restaurant were made by them?
Chair, I think I know where this is leading. This is leading to the implication that we are in some way deliberately persecuting this cafe, and I do so strongly resent and disapprove of that line of questioning to me.
Well, having made that point, which the committee has noted, you were asked a factual question that how many of the, and I think
Objections.
we'd like to hear the answer to that. So how many of the
I would assume several of the objections have been made either by myself or by Mr. Rickard. Several, but by no means all.
Well, there are only 6 listed, and 1 additional referred to by the officer. I don't know whether Mr. Menon could answer the question as to how many of those were made by either him or Mr. Rickard. And I ought to say, following up on the comment that Mr. Menon said, I don't in any way wish to denigrate their views, but I submit it is relevant to your consideration when what is being submitted is that all of those in the immediate vicinity are objecting to the application. It's relevant in my submission that you know that 2 of those objectors live in the same premises and that several, in Mr. Menon's word, and I hope he'll be able to answer the factual question, of the complaints that were made by them. I don't wish to make any implication as to the rationale for those complaints and what is behind it, but I do say that it's relevant to your consideration as to the true strength of the feeling against the application.
If I might add that there were 3 objections at least. Whether these have been listed or not, that were made by the Countess Balsa from 50A Walton Street, including video evidence on the 28th of June last year.
I do have questions of Mr. Casper, who appears on behalf of the Balsa, so I will restrict my question to Mr. Menon and to Mr. Rickard. The question is, how many of the complaints that were made against the applicant's restaurant were made by him and by Mr. Rickard?
Can I come in?
I'm just going to pause you there. So let me phrase the question a slightly different way. So page 109 of the main bundle, we've got the complaints, 109 and 28th of June 2024, we've got resident 1. 4th of May 25, resident 1. 31st of May 25, residents 2 and 3, both two complaints. 3rd of June is resident 2. 4th of June is resident 1. And 16th of June is resident 2. So perhaps would you like to identify yourselves as resident 1 or resident 2 that you are anonymised in here, if indeed that is you, because you say you're several of the complainants?
Absolutely. I think what has also been omitted is that on the 18th of June, and this is not there in the list of complaints, a formal further complaint was sent by counter-sponsor from 50A. Prior to this TENS, there was a written complaint also submitted by her, but I accept totally that most of the complaints, recorded or otherwise, have come from either myself or from Mr. Ricards.
So one of you is resident 1, and it doesn't really matter which one is resident 1.
It honestly doesn't matter. Yes.
On the 31st of May, a resident 3, which is not one of you,
Yep.
was involved in making a complaint. So I think we've established that sufficiently for the purposes of the committee without belabouring the point any further. But I think I heard something about a complaint on the 18th of June, which isn't listed here, Mr. Phelan. Is it the 28th of June? So this is something that doesn't appear to be listed on the list of complaints, Mr. Phelan?
Just to clarify, Chair, I did have a conversation with Noise and Nuisance earlier today, one of their officers within that team, and I can confirm that the list of complaints in the report is an up-to-date reflection of where we're at. There were no further complaints on the system after the 16th of June.
We're back to Mr. Coxhill, please.
Could I ask one further question of Messrs. Rickard and Menon, please? Reference has been made to an Instagram post of a cigar lounge or something similar. Could I ask them to confirm that that was in relation to the year 2021?
I did not make that complaint myself, nor did Mr. Ricards, and therefore I'm unable to answer that, but it was certainly advertised. It was very much on the cafe's Instagram website or feed or whatever these things are called in 2022. A complaint was made by whoever the complaint was made by, and the restaurant was ordered to take it down and issued with a warning.
That wasn't your complaint?
That was not me. We are not on any form of social media.
And you think it was 2022?
Sorry?
You think it was 2022?
I'm sure it was in 2022.
Thank you. That satisfies the point that I sought to make in relation to that incident and the age of it, rather than it being relatively recent. May I move on now, please, to Mr. Casper? Mr. Casper has made various statements about the ability of his family to live in the premises and the difficulties that the premises have caused to his family's way of life. Can I ask Mr. Casper to confirm, first of all, that he himself does not live in Walton Street?
That's correct. I don't live there, nor does my wife. So we as a family don't live on Walton Street. We have lived in the past. We currently do not live there.
And just to, as it were, make the point quite clearly, his wife does not live in Walton Street. I don't wish to assume your living circumstances, Mr. Casper. You've said that you don't live in Walton Street. I'd just like to confirm that your wife doesn't live in Walton Street.
Yes. So as a married couple with small children, we find ourselves impossible to live at Walton Street in the current conditions that 50A currently is in, given the vicinity of the cafe.
May I ask when the last time Mr. Casper and his wife lived in Walton Street in the particular premises that his family own?
We lived there from just off the cuff in 2019, 2020.
May I ask Mr. Casper to confirm that his mother-in-law, who has also provided, and I ought to say, it's your wife who has provided an objecting statement, isn't it?
I'm not sure who exactly did. But yeah, I believe both did. Yeah.
So I hope you'll take it. Obviously, some of the details have been redacted, but it's clear that the Bolser family have provided 2 emails, one from Mr. Casper's wife and one from Mr. Casper's mother-in-law, the Countess Bolser. Yes. And could you confirm that the Countess Bolser does not live in Walton Street?
She currently does not live in Walton Street at this point. That's correct.
And when was the last time the Countess Bolser lived in Walton Street, to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah, last year.
Pause there. And for, to the best of your knowledge, for how long was she residing in Walton Street last year?
We would have to ask her herself. I can't tell you exactly.
Unfortunately, she's not here to ask the questions, so you have appeared, as it were, on her behalf. Was she living in Walton Street in June last year, to the best of your knowledge?
I cannot tell you. Probably yes, but I can't make that statement for sure here in front of the council.
Is it your understanding that she would have lived in Walton Street on a relatively temporary basis? In other words, for a short period of time?
I'm not sure exactly how to answer that question.
All right. It's right at the moment that your family accommodation or premises is leased, isn't it? It's rented out to a tenant.
I think that is the case, yes.
When you say you think that is the case, do you have personal knowledge that it is?
I'm personally aware that there's someone currently as a lessor there, as a lessee there.
Yes. And before, and that is on a long-term lease, isn't it?
I don't know the details of the lease.
Before that, is it right that the premises was being advertised on Airbnb?
I'm not aware of any Airbnb advertisements.
Right.
I don't think so.
And may I ask Mr. Menon and Mr. Rickard whether the 4 objectors who are said to live in the immediate vicinity of the applicant's premises include the Countess Bolser?
No. There are 3 flats in Walton House who have objected.
Thank you. It's right, though, Mr. Casper, isn't it, that neither you, your wife, or your mother-in-law have resided at the family property for at least a year?
I can only speak for myself, my wife. We have not resided there for at least a year. That's correct.
Thank you. How, if you don't mind me asking, how old are your children? I don't wish to know their names or anything similar, but how old are they?
They are 2 years old and there's one on the way.
First of all, congratulations. But secondly, may I just confirm that there were no children residing in the property in 2019 when you last lived there?
None of my children, but there's children in the family who would use the premises, obviously, of the family home, right? It's a large family, and the family obviously I'm not the owner, so I don't control who stays for how long in that house. It's a family house, so I think there's about 30 grandchildren around who, of course, come in and go. So I can't confirm. It's probably not true what you're suggesting.
What the arrangements were in 2019, and that was my fault for perhaps an inaccurate question. Really what I was saying was that none of your children were residing in the property with you in 2019.
I think we're starting to go off point in 2019 now. I think it's slightly historic, so could we...
Perhaps I've made the point. Thank you. Those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Coxhill. Okay, so the supporters have been waiting very patiently at the back, so I'm going to invite you to speak now in turn. You'll each have 10 minutes, up to 10 minutes each. I don't mind which of you wants to go first. Do we have a volunteer to... Yes, remind us of your names at the beginning so it can be captured by the recording. Mr. Coxhill, if you can turn your microphone off.
Yes, of course.
Hi.
Ms. Berkey's Ms. Gattata, you'll go.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. So I live just around the corner, perhaps 20 or 30 steps away from Walton Cafe, and I've lived in Knightsbridge for more than 15 years. It's obvious that Walton Street is a mixed commercial and residential street. I do not believe that it is an overwhelmingly residential street at all. We all know the restaurants, cafes, shops, and other ground floor businesses below residences form a substantial part of Walton Street's character and have done so for many years. As someone who lives so close to the cafe, I would not support this application if I genuinely believed it would cause an unreasonable disturbance to local residents. Walton Cafe has become much more than just somewhere to eat and drink. It's become a real part of our community. It's one of the few places on Walton Street where people from all backgrounds, ages, and cultures can come together. Whether it's local families, elderly residents, young professionals, visitors, or children, everyone is made to feel welcome. And the reason for that is the applicants, the family who runs it. They are always present, always approachable, kind, and genuinely invested in our neighborhood. They know most of their customers by name and have created an environment that feels warm, inclusive, and family-oriented. Since I first met them, I've always found them to be incredibly welcoming and committed to doing the right thing, both for their customers and for the local community. I would also like to say that I've never seen the owners as upset as they are today. It's clear how much they care about their business and about our neighborhood. They genuinely want to continue improving what they offer by extending their hours outdoors and creating a space where local families can gather, contributing positively to Walton Street. Their commitment and passion are very obvious to those of us who know them. While I respect the objectors' concerns of noise and the views of those, I personally have never experienced any disturbance from Walton Cafe, despite living only moments away. In fact, I visit 4 or 5 times every week, and I spend a great deal of time there. During all of those visits, I have never once noticed any kitchen noise or music at a level that would concern me, and certainly not any louder than any other restaurants or hospitality venues nearby. If anything, I've always found it to be one of the more quieter and considerate premises in the area. I've also heard the concerns that granting this application could result in Walton Cafe becoming more like a late-night bar. Respectfully, that is not my impression at all. As someone who visits a cafe 4 or 5 times a week, the premises have always operated as a cafe, and I see nothing about its layout or operation that could suggest it could be a bar. The space inside is relatively small, the tables are arranged for dining in families, and it simply does not feel like the sort of venue that would operate as a late-night drinking establishment. I also believe it's important to judge this application and the applicants on their own merits. The current owners should not be held responsible or be subject to any prejudice for the premises' previous operators or operations. My experience is of the people who run the Walton Cafe today, not any previous cigar bar or belly dancing lounge. I found the applicants to be very responsible, considerate, and community-minded, which is why people bring their kids there. The only real difference I can see in Walton Cafe in my experience is that it's by far the most family-friendly venue on the street. It's somewhere where parents can bring their kids, where grandparents can sit down with their families, and where neighbors can meet in a relaxed and welcoming environment. Particularly during these warm months, outdoor seating is an important part of that experience. It allows families to stay together outside and enjoy the atmosphere of our neighborhood. It would be a real shame if parents with young children or elderly relatives could not sit when there's perfectly suitable outdoor space available. It helps create our community atmosphere that many of us highly value. Importantly, wherever concerns have been raised, the owners have always shown a willingness to listen, engage, and respond. From what I've seen, they've made genuine efforts to work with residents and be considerate neighbors long before there was any formal hearing or proceedings. I recall one evening there was a person who was actually being followed by a somewhat unsavory character, and they quickly walked into the Walton Cafe for their own safety, which reinforces why a late-night license will help the local community. I would also like to mention that it's a shame that Shan, who lives directly above Walton Cafe, also a supporter and arguably the resident most affected by Walton Cafe's operation, a lot closer than any of the 10 opponents on Walton Street, was unable to attend this afternoon. I previously attended the community meeting held at the cafe, where she spoke very positively about the business and was a strong supporter of the outdoor seating, later hours, and alcohol license, and still is. I very much hope that her written submission will be given due weight, as her perspective as the closest neighbour is particularly important. Finally, us residents, whether 10 steps away like the opponent, or 30 steps away like myself, I do not believe the variation requested will undermine the licensing objectives or create any nuisance. It's quite the contrary. If you have the opportunity to visit the Walton Cafe, I believe you will see this for yourselves and why it's become such a valued part of our community. For all those reasons, I respectfully ask you, the committee, to please grant the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gutata. Now, who's going to go next? Santos, go for it.
Thank you, Chair. My neighbor said everything. And I have to just to say that each time I pass in the street, because I walk sometimes a dog, and I don't see around that cafe a lot of people outside talking. What I see is people coming out of other restaurants and hailing for taxis or waiting for a car to come to pick them up. It's around that place is few restaurants. And what I believe where this gentleman lives, he used to be a school before. So that place around there is a lot of shops. So when you go to area, you can see further down is residential, but there is few shops. But in fact, I see very nice people, and I also go to that cafe, and I like to be there because it's very quiet. And when I want to meet some friends to talk, it's a very quiet place to be. So about the noise, I don't know. I don't think it's like my colleague said, It's very familiar. You see sometimes kids with their mothers after school seated there and doing even homework. So it's a nice place, basically. Very quiet. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Ms. Berkey, please.
Yes, I live on Lennox Gardens, and my kitchen overlooks the cafe on Walton Street, so often I have in the summer the windows open and I have not experienced any nuisance. I also want to point out that it's a very, truly the owners know their customers. They have tried so hard to blend in and become part of the community. And also, if I may point out, they do have 3 children and still manage to run the business and take care of a large family, which I find admirable. Sometimes I travel, and when I come back home, I pass down Walton Street, and I would like to maybe have a bite before I head home, and a glass of wine, and read my book in a quiet place rather than the Enterprise, which is rather rowdy, by the way, until the very late hours, sometimes even beyond 11, I dare say. And this is the ideal place just across from where I live. It's a pity I cannot do that, because by 8:20, I have to grab my book and head elsewhere. It's like, or go home, which is kind of sad. So I wish they could have the opportunity to expand their business and not lose it to the neighboring venues, which already have the privilege of engaging in late hours. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. So I'm going to ask my colleagues if they have any questions for the supporters. While you're thinking about it, just Ms. Berkey, your last, if I could just pick up on one of your points there. You said your kitchen overlooks the cafe. Roughly how far away are you? I mean, is it a distant view or very close?
Yeah, gosh. In a straight line, maybe 30 meters? 30,
so
40? I mean, it's
out of earshot, but you can see it.
Sorry?
Out of earshot, but you can see
Oh no, I can hear sometimes people on the street or, standing waiting for taxis, but not necessarily from the cafe, because the cafe closes early. So I can hear people coming from Scalini. I can hear, definitely noise on the street, but not from as you.
Okay, thanks very much. Now, objectors, you do have an opportunity to ask any questions of the supporters if you wish to. Maybe you don't have any questions.
Sorry, if I may, do any of you have children that live with you on Walton Street?
I have taken care of 3 children in the past 14 years. I mean, my own children, obviously.
Yeah, so you had them there with you on Walton Street? Did you live with them on Walton Street?
I live with them on Lennox Gardens, overlooking Walton Street. Yes, I do.
But not on Walton Street?
You said Lennox Gardens, so I think we established we don't need the street address, we just need the road, and I think we've established that.
Also, sorry, I have 2 nephews at the Knightsbridge School, which is just behind Walton Street. So we often go to Walton Cafe together. We're always walking around the area. They're always with me.
What do you think about passive smoke?
I'm sorry?
The question is, my objection was, and that's why I'm asking, is cigar smoke and cigarette smoke is harmful to children.
I don't think that's relevant to the application today.
I'm just asking.
Rule that question out of order because smoking is not a licensable activity. So I don't think we can go down that route. Anything else? No? Okay, I'm going to call us to a halt there. Thank you very much to the supporters for making your points. Now I'm going to ask the the legal officer to go through the potential conditions. So this discussion, as I remind you, I mentioned earlier, is without prejudice to the committee's decision later on. But over to you, Ms. Lamazurier, please.
Thank you, Chair. So everybody's had sight of these draft conditions that were circulated by governance yesterday. Obviously, this is a variation, so we can't take away what they've already got. We can only consider what's being applied for. We've already had a tentative discussion about hours inside and outside, so I'm going to focus on the conditions now. So going to condition 19, the applicant is obviously seeking to amend the 8:30 till 10 p.m. Separately, they will need to adjust their pavement licence, which currently terminates at 8:30 p.m, but that's a separate regime. They will need to get that changed to 10 p.m, not the summertime terrace, but the one next to the shop, if to be in compliance. Can I have anybody's comments on condition 19? The wording in red in this document is just my proposed amended wording. Applicant?
No submissions, thank you.
Mr. Rickards? Objectors?
This was on the basis of alcohol or service ending at 9:30, correct? Which we discussed about an hour ago.
This is the outside areas.
That's
so
right.
obviously the councils will make a decision as to what time alcohol should end. It's inside and outside. If you skip to condition 38, they've offered a condition basically saying that alcohol outside shall cease at 21:30 and the area is to be cleared by 10 p.m. anyway outside. So that goes to our earlier discussion, but it's backed up by a condition here.
Okay, noted.
Okay.
That's not accepted, but noted. But
No, I understand that, yeah. Obviously, this is just without prejudice. I'm going to remove condition 35 because that related to the redundant time-limited licence. It's not relevant anymore. I haven't got any comments on condition 36. Obviously, that's just having a dispersed on an external management plan. If the objectors or anybody has anything to say, please,
No, thank you.
speak. Number 37, you've said that the outside seating area is not to be used after 8:30 p.m. when you're having private events. Are you happy with my proposed wording? Because I wanted, obviously you've got a ground floor and a basement floor premises. There may be times where you have normal customers there as well as a private event. So I wanted to distinguish between the two and obviously tie your statement to the private event people. Are you
Yes,
happy
we
with the
agree. No
wording?
submissions.
Objectors, do you have any comments on that condition? Mr. Rickards, Casper?
Can the door be closed before 10?
Can the door be closed before 10?
Yeah, I mean, if you're having an event, a party indoors, and the outside is not being used, does the door have to stay open till 10?
We can ask the other side, but ultimately it'd be for the councillors to decide.
May I just explain the point? Mr. Rickards asking if we could close the door earlier. Not lock. You just close the door. Yeah. Yes, yes. Yeah, can you close it earlier? Certainly they would be amenable to amending that to 9:30, for example.
Okay. Mr. Rickards, any comments on that? 9:30 p.m. door close.
I'm sorry, what was your question, Miss?
For the outdoor, the door. If they're having a private event
Yes.
inside, they won't use the outside tables, but the door to the restaurant will be closed from 9:30 instead of 10.
I have no problem.
Yeah, 9:30 is okay.
May I just say, forgive me for interrupting, I'm just taking instructions on it. The door is always closed. And so to that extent, if you were minded to amend it to even 9 p.m. or earlier, then the applicants would be amenable to it because it is always closed. Obviously to ensure that the patrons don't get the cold draft coming in from the outside. So we'd be amenable to any amendment to that.
Okay, thank you. And then the last condition, this obviously goes to our earlier conversation, number 38. My wording read, subject to the terms of any necessary pavement licence, which is actually placing the tables and chairs on the highway. The sale and supply of alcohol for consumption within those areas shall cease at 9:30. then there's 30 minutes drinking up, and the customers have to leave the areas by 10. Are you okay with that?
No.
Go on then. You explain.
Obviously, this is very much a decision for the committee, but since you have been kind enough to ask me my personal opinion, it is that the external seating should cease at 8:30, as is currently the case.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave that to the councillors.
No submissions. We agree with your view as set out in 38.
Thank you. Right, I don't have any further conditions. Is there anything else that's cropped up that the councillors wish to raise questions on, condition-wise?
Okay, so I think that draws us to a conclusion. Is there any last legal advice for us? Mr. Phelan, anything from licensing?
Nothing from licensing, thank you, Chair.
Anything rising from the governance team?
Nothing from us, thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much indeed. So that concludes our hearing today. I would like to say thank you very much to everybody who's taken the trouble to attend. So within the next 5 days, the Council will issue the summary decision, and then the full written determination will follow at some point after that, and any appeal period follows the publication of the full written determination. So the next you'll hear from the Council is the summary determination within the next 5 working days. And that concludes the meeting for today. The committee will now retire to make our decisions. Thank you all for assisting us this afternoon.
Thank you very much for your patience. May I just explain that Mr. Cherry was using the facilities and he hadn't left for any other reason?